So I recently just broke my PS5. It had been overheating for a couple of weeks now and I just kept putting it off and delaying it. So after watching about 30 million videos on how to clean the CPU and fix it and stop it, turns out the CPU was fried. My PlayStation was now paperweight. But I started to reminisce of COVID and all the good times playing the Sony exclusives over the years, and I wanted to get back into gaming. But there was an issue. One, the budget that I had to get back into gaming was very minimum. And two, the cost of the PS5 Pro was actually ridiculous. I mean, $1,200 in Australia for a PS5 Pro. I mean, this was my bank account. I only bought Pizza Hut and I was already broke. So I didn't know how I was going to do this, but I had to become a man with a plan. And anyways, due to the lack of space that I had, I needed my PC to be compact. And I mean like, boom, like this tiny little shoe. So I did start watching YouTube videos on ITX builds because that really interested me. But then I looked on the case prices, not so interesting. So that led me to my next part, which was workstation. So I did do some light video editing in the background, and I did like to dabble here and there in code, but I wouldn't say I was a genius. Good times. And thirdly, the budget. Well, my budget was $650, and with the price of RAM at the moment and everything else, I thought this was going to be impossible. Thanks a lot, Skynet. Arnold, please help us. So this led me down the path of going through used PC prices. So, I had a couple of things I needed to get. A motherboard, CPU, GPU, RAM, all the list goes on. The first thing I wanted to target was the CPU. So I decided to go for a Ryzen 7 3700 XT. I mean, I was looking at the specs for them and they still perform relatively well for a budget build. I mean, look at the cost of this Ryzen 5 here. Oh, 5700 XT? Sheesh. Now here came my motherboard. Nice and clean. I'm gonna be completely honest here. I just went for the cheapest motherboard that I could find in stock at the moment. I tried looking on Facebook Marketplace and all of them were like $80. So there was actually no point in me buying secondhand. So yeah, I picked this up for $99 from Yuma and there was no disappointments. Next thing I needed was the case. Well, because I needed it to be small, I went for Micro-ATX, obviously. And I went for this one. It came with a 500 watt power supply, which I know seems kind of iffy, but at the time, hey, it was $59 and I needed to save as much money as possible. And I like the size of the case. It was about 3 PlayStation controller lengths. And I already can hear the Reddit mod saying, "Well, bro, you shouldn't know that PSU is gonna fry your antennas." And to that I say, hey man, I'm broke. So the next part we had was the graphics card. And for you that don't know, this is essentially what displays all the graphics and the visuals on your computer screen. But, this was another tricky part. After watching so many videos on what graphics card to get, I ended up settling on the RTX 3070. So I ended up hopping on Tom's Hardware to find the smallest RTX 3070. Turns out it was a ZOTAC, and it was about 231 millimeters long, which fit perfectly into the case actually. Gives us room for a whole 29 millimeters. So I went for the ZOTAC RTX 3070. No better place than Facebook. Man, this place is like a goldmine for used PC parts. So I ended up just searching for one and I clicked on the first link I could buy. Anyways, just as a joke, I messaged this guy for the video saying, "Hello, would you sell me for $250? Question mark?" He replied instantly and said, "Only if I can pick it up tonight." So there we go. I jumped in my whip and I actually drove all the way out to the country just to pick this thing up. So here's some nice footage of me driving. Ooh yeah, so cinematic. Sign me up, Steven Spielberg. I needed to buy some RAM. And what better place to buy used? I picked up a 16GB single stick for $40 on Marketplace. And then I had to buy an SSD. Also, can I just say that the prices of SSDs at the moment are ridiculous. I remember when you could buy a 1TB SSD, I think back in July 2025, and it was only $80. So I have no idea what happened in the... it's ridiculous. Next comes the fun part, which is assembly. Assembly. Yeah. Oh, assembling. Whoops, I got it wrong 3 times. So I had the stick here. Woo, baby. 16 gigabytes in a single stick. And I had the Wraith Prism cooler, which was really dusty at the time. But don't worry, I cleaned it before I installed it. Or did I? The Ryzen 3700 XT here, which was, I think at this time, the most powerful CPU I've ever owned. And I was going all into this beautiful motherboard. The Prime? Yeah, I forgot the name already. Anyways, I am no PC guru, but I remember back in the day that all you had to do was a pea size for the thermal paste. And then when I attached the CPU cooler, I was kind of nervous about how much tension I had to put down just to secure this. But after I locked into place, it actually felt very snug. Next thing you know, I installed the RAM. Oh yeah. But I did everything off camera because it was actually really hard to work with the camera down and having to try and assemble everything. And because I have giant hands, it was actually so difficult for me to try and secure the SSD. So everything was good to go, and into the PC case it went. But can I just say, I ran into one issue already. So this PSU only had one PCIe 8-pin. I needed 2 of those so I could work the RTX 3070. So I went to some old school caveman Molex to PCIe adapters. I do not recommend this, but I wanted something just to work in the meantime until I could find another one. So yeah, like I said, we just shoved the cables in there and we just hope no one sees it. And the PC booted, so it was time to install Windows. Look at this. I have a theory that it would actually run really smooth on Windows 95, only because it could run on a potato back in the day. Next thing you know, I was in Steam and I was already looking for games. So this was the fun part. So I had already purchased some games from my old Steam account, and so I downloaded Hogwarts, Elden Ring, Shadows of Mordor, God of War, and The Sims 4. And I wanted to benchmark all of these games as much as possible. But like an old man, I just had to sit down and wait for the download. So I started playing with my dog, who played with my Amazon box. Ooh, here we go, God of War. Honestly, I love this game. So we were running this at 4K, and I'm pretty sure we ran this on the high graphics setting. I was just trying to get as much gameplay as possible, just so I could see if the frames drop below 60. And surprisingly, it performed really well. I mean, I rarely saw a dip below 60, and the fight scenes they're not crazy intense, but I thought at least it would drop below 60 or hit 55 or something like that. So the next game I decided to benchmark was Shadows of Mordor. I know this is an old game, so it doesn't really count as modern testing for 4K, but the single player story mode for this was legendary, and I wanted to play it on the ultra settings on 4K just to see what it was like. And so I decided to benchmark it, and surprisingly it went really well again. For the highest settings at 4K resolution, I was genuinely impressed with what this old build could pull out just for the price. So it was averaging around, I believe, 100 frames per second. Look at that, 100 frames per second. Then came the real test, Hogwarts Legacy, which is famously known for how heavily demanding it is on the GPU. So yeah, we got started, and funnily enough, the PC crashed. And it crashed more than once, if I'm being completely honest. It crashed about 2 or 3 times. So I decided to swap out the power supply for some random power supply that I had laying around. So this was 550 watts at Bronze 80 Plus. It was some random brand that I bought back in the day. I think it was from Alibaba, I can't remember. But according to PC Part Picker, this is more than enough to power this unit. So please be gentle on me. Well, it turned on, I guess. I mean, I finished assembling and it turned on. So I was just happy with that. So yeah, I know I've made some mistakes, but hey, look, this is coming together pretty well. And look, it powers on at least. So back to Hogwarts it was. So I loaded up the game again and saw what we could get. So I pushed it to 4K again, and I ran it on the high graphics settings with all the ray tracing on, all the good stuff. And what I did notice that in the cave, above 60 FPS, but anything looking at things that were scenic or had a lot of detail in the background really dropped the frames to 50. But mid fights were over 60 FPS, which like I said, I was pleased with. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the performance that I could get. Now here comes the next part. Now I think it's time for my honest opinion on the build. Well, I want to be completely transparent. While I did love everything, the size was small, the price was small, everything was small. It weighed a lot less than my PS5 Pro, and it was about the same size. Okay, maybe it was a little bit smaller, but like 2 centimeters. But in saying that, this thing did get hot. Because of the lack of airflow and the lack of fans, I sometimes had to pull it out of its spot just so it can cool down because it started to run like the PS4 jet. It was better than just staring out my window at these prison bars. You know, while I do have some money left in the budget, I think I'm going to put this into some better cooling, whether it's some better fans, better CPU cooler, or possibly even a tiny bit of a better case. Maybe I can drill some holes in it and customize it. But yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the way that this performed, and I have no regrets building this PC. I mean, the cost speaks for itself. It was under $650 Australian, which is $425 American at the time of this video. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, please leave comments down below. I'm not a tech guru, I'm not a PC master. I am just a guy that just wants to get back into single player gaming, and I want a good storyline with some good graphics. Well, if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you can, and hopefully I can make some more videos for you guys.